Hello from Webster University in Tashkent. This is Mamurjan Rahimov. We're going to talk about Chapter 9, Reaching Global Markets. These are our learning outcomes. Let's define international marketing. It's developing and performing marketing activities across national boundaries. For developed countries, majority of large corporations, they receive lion's share of their profit from outside of their markets, even though some of these large corporations are located in countries with large domestic population. For emerging economies like Uzbekistan, international marketing is also becoming very important because the population is growing and countries' production capacity is growing. So we're able to satisfy our own demand and earn more by selling our products and services outside of our country. So international markets provide growth opportunities for both corporations in developing countries and developed countries. Many countries offer assistance and research to encourage international business. So this is also happening in Uzbekistan. Um, Most companies have entered the global marketplace incrementally as they gain knowledge about various markets and opportunities. So far, we don't have McDonald's in Uzbekistan, but we already have many KFC branches in Uzbekistan. So they have thousands of KFC joints around the world. Born globals are the firms that are international from the beginning, such as Google, Amazon, Alibaba, and many other tech giants. Environmental forces in global markets are the same that we studied before, but they require closer attention. So marketers need to research these environmental forces in order to better understand international customers. If this is done properly, this can generate financial rewards, increase market share in foreign countries, and improve customer awareness of products which are sold by the company. Sociocultural forces. There are so many things affecting at the social level, such as family, religion, education, health, recreation, language, and country of origin effects. All of this require close scrutiny and attention, and they have to be taken into account when making international marketing decisions. Marketing activities are always influenced by beliefs and values regarding family, religion, education, health, and recreation because the importance of these things vary from country to country. Even if we look in Uzbekistan, even between regions, there is a difference between uh, the attitudes of beliefs of people related to these factors. United States market is, it's not just one country. It's a whole world in itself. So if you travel from east to west, south to north, all these factors change considerably. Therefore, can be quite difficult to adapt marketing efforts to different preferences, tastes, and idioms. Transfer marketing symbols, trademarks, logos, and even products to international markets. There are so many examples of branding blunders when certain brands, their slogans and logos were translated into other languages. Consumer preferences for products depend on the impression of the country of origin, right? We all know that, for example, best perfumes are made in France, and best electronics made in Japan or Korea. So over time, people learn that certain countries are better at producing certain kinds of products, and this sticks for a long time. So, um, for example, made in USA, it evokes positive feelings about the products and services made there. Uh, Even though it's very hard to find truly made in USA products. Even if they are made in USA, many components are made in other countries. According to Jack Ma, in the future, there will be no made in USA, made in China, or made in Uzbekistan. It will be made in internet, right? So the whole world will participate in online commerce, and products will be made on internet. So, uh, global marketers, international marketers must understand international trade systems, um, and nations with economic stability or instability. They have to deeply understand different kinds of trade barriers and, of course, economic disparities between nations. Instability is a guaranteed constant in the global business environment. Constantly things are changing. We all see what's happening in the world right now. So companies which dependent on international business and trade, they're suffering the most at this time. Developing nations, while poorer, often offer a lot of market potential. So, of course, economic forces have to be considered while deciding to make marketing decisions regarding international marketing. There are many differences between nations in standard of living, availability of credit, purchasing power or buying power, natural resources of energy, of minerals, and other resources, income distribution, and of course exchange rates. GDP is an economic term which means the market value of a nation's total output of goods and services for a given period, usually for in a whole year. It's an overall measure of economic standing. It may give insights into a nation's wealth and market potential, but it's not an exact and not the best indicator. This is just to gain a general understanding. Political, legal, and regulatory forces are often intertwined. A nation's legal and regulatory infrastructure reflects its political situation. Import tariffs are taxes for goods which are imported into the country. Also, international trade is regulated by quotas, so certain countries limit amount of goods to be imported into the country from different other countries, right? So there is in worldwide, for example, there is a practice of, for example, China buying other countries' quotas and labeling made in that country in order to bypass these kind of limitations, because China uses up their quota very quickly. Every year, different publications they come up with the list of best countries for entrepreneurs, and Singapore, Hong Kong, uh, New Zealand, United States is also in top five. But this ranking changed from year to year as countries they simplify the doing business environment, and they try to change their regulations. Did you know that United States has multiple embargoes in place against many countries in the world. Embargo is a government's or suspension of trade in a particular product or with a given country. For example, there are several embargoes against North Korea or Iran. Uh, Many countries they practice exchange control. Central banks of those countries uh, they restriction on the amount of particular currency that can be bought or sold. Um, well, until recently, we had one of the strictest exchange controls in the world, and it's gradually being liberalized. Some countries promote international trade through free trade zones, which are multinational economic communities that eliminate trade barriers. At the time of recording of this lecture, Uzbekistan is still weighing its options whether to join Eurasian Economic Union, which is led by Russia, and Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Belarus, and Armenia are currently members of this union. So far, Uzbekistan is considering just as to join this union as an observer. Balance of trade indicates the difference in value between nations' exports and imports. So, besides different barriers, well, in previous slides we talked about tariffs. There are many non-tariff, non-regulatory barriers like stringent health and safety requirements. Like developed countries, they have very high requirements for uh, many items, especially for food items, to be permitted to the market, and which also can inhibit trade. Considering ethical and social responsibility forces, accepted business practices vary from country to country. There are many subjective things like bribery. Uh, a small gift in one country can be considered a bribery in a different country. So, for example, in South Korea, I was told that they have a $50 limit on the value of gifts which can be given, between organizations, to different officials. Uh, More than that amount can result in legal problems. Also, a big problem is intellectual property protection, copyrights, patents. Uh, Protection still remains a problem globally, even in developed countries. Self-reference criterion, SRC, the unconscious reference to one's own cultural values, experience, and knowledge, usually includes the sense that your culture is the best. Especially people who don't travel much, they have very strong sense of self reference. Speaking about different cultural practices, we should know about cultural relativism, the concept that morality varies from one culture to another, and that business practices are therefore differentially defined as right or wrong by particular cultures. You probably know the popular saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. In order to counter that, large international companies they enact international ethics and compliance programs, and they spend a lot of money to devise and update and train workers in ethics programs and compliance programs. So related to that is this table, which is also regularly updated, ranking of countries based upon corruption of public sector. Of course, this is not the full list. Competition is a staple of the global marketplace. It's everywhere. It's very strong. Technology and interconnectedness have created unique competitive forces in the international marketplace. Firms that operate internationally should be aware of the competitive forces in the countries they target, uh, identify the interdependence of countries and global competitors in those markets, be mindful of a new breed of customers, the global customers, which compare not just within their countries but across the globe. We do not have so many of such customers because still Amazon, eBay, and Alibaba they do not work fully in Uzbekistan. But as our markets open up, we're gonna see more such customers. So you'll be choosing globally of the products that you would like to buy, especially B2B customers.